Hi, Sandra. How are you?
Hey, can you look on your thing and see if it allows you to record, not to, like it must be something in my settings. It's not, we're supposed to record these sessions, but
It says recording. It's recording in the corner.
it is, but it's not recording the right way. And the reason why I know is because, okay, here comes, who's Hannah?
When I click on the record, it says, please request recording permission from the meeting host.
Okay, I'm gonna let you do, oh, can you, let me see.
So I don't think
I'll
I
tell you
can.
what the problem is. I recorded the other day, but it's recording to my computer. It's not recording to Zoom for me to give them the link. And so I'm trying to figure out how to change that, but I haven't. She said it was supposed to ask me. Let me find it.
No, when you set up the meeting, did you activate that feature when you were actually creating the meeting link?
Why are all these people pop? Hi, Hannah and Dawood.
Hannah's she's the reporter from the Washington Post.
Oh, okay. Who are these other people? There's like 4 people that are coming in.
Trying to crash our party?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Let me ask them. Hi, hi, Dawood and Jessica. May I ask what group you're supposed to be participating in today?
I'm sorry, you're just talking to me. I'm supposed to be with facilities.
Yeah, you're in the wrong group.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I think that you have the link that is Erica's link.
Yes, that's what I'm supposed to be.
Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick so I can send you to the right room.
Okay, thank you.
Hold on, I gotta go to my email for a second.
Thanks. I'm not taking this personally.
No, I'm sorry. No, I noticed that there are people in here that have never been, that aren't in our group. So I just want to make sure people are in the right place. But hold on, let me get Erica. She did, let me see where it is. She did send a link just as an informational the other day. I hope I kept it. Erica Tech subgroup. Oh, I think this is hers. Let me see, for your awareness. Oh no, this is John Kreit's room.
So let me see if she sent something.
Let me see, hold on, I see the one for, okay, I did find one for Erica.
Okay.
I think this is hers. Did she put the, oh, you know what she did? She said she has one, but she did not actually send the link for it.
Okay. Well, let me, I'll hop out and
Yeah,
see if.
you probably need to like text her real quick and see what
Okay.
her link is. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to slow you down. Thank you.
I think everybody else is good. I'm looking down our little list here. So everybody else is fine. Okay, so hi everybody. Hope you guys had a great session looking at that data. Dawn, we're back together again. So Dawn was in the group that I just participated in, and we had some really good discussions on data. Alexander, as our scribe, are you prepared with the link for our workbook?
So I have so many different tabs open.
Okay, so where we're looking at, it's in the HR Capital Facilities and Technology Team workbook.
Yeah,
and we're in the middle of the page where it says Human Resources, and it says Due Now in Step 3.
I'm there.
And I think one of the things I would like to do just in terms of report out is just to get a sense of where does our team, are we aligned in our thinking on whether or not we should be hybrid or virtual, and kind of just go round robin here, and based on all the information that we've collected, particularly in after our discussions today, just by, if you want to do it in the chat, you can. If you want to just raise your hand, whatever you're more comfortable with. chime in on which model, if you had to choose today, and you only had a minute to make a decision, because that's all I'm giving you is a minute. Would you choose starting off in a virtual environment, or do you feel more comfortable starting off in a hybrid environment? So just kind of going around the room or putting it in the chat, whichever you're more comfortable with. Let's do it now. So for virtual, all virtual. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then for hybrid.
My thumbs up is still up there, but it shouldn't be. Okay, there it is.
Okay. Okay, so that's good. So we're
gonna say virtual, but I was just, in my room and I happen to be with 2 parents, and I'm a parent too, but they're very far from, at least those 2 parents, they're very far from, to me, it seems like it's gotta be virtual, but I know that people are very far from that, especially parents.
Yes, and so this is the second question I think that to keep in mind, because I think people are torn, and just my sense of in the discussions that we've had, it's kind of, there's this two-sided thing. It's what do I think is best for my child in terms of letting them acclimate into normalcy, and then there's what's more important, safety, security, and how confident am I that my child is going to not be well if we go back in. It's this like double-edged thing. So Allison, I can assure you as a parent as well, I'm kind of in the same place. So I think that it's really important, again, as we begin to look at our chart and what we need to discuss and incorporate into it, that we again keep our focus. We're the HR team, keep it focused on what are the impacts to our staff, because that's where our eyes should be on,
So I want to interject, because you just went straight to the virtual and didn't listen to, or not have the other side with the hybrid, in that it was very telling in the number of staff that felt comfortable coming into a hybrid, and that dashed my theory that it would be over 2/3 not wanting to return. So with the staff willing and with the parents willing, I felt that at least we needed to entertain what we would have to have in place to make sure that that would occur. However, in our breakout group, we were talking about the fact that, and we had a facilities person, oh my gosh, what if someone becomes infected? How we shut down the building? Now we have no staff there for 14 days going forward. So then discussion went from the virtual hybrid to now we have a district that's doing staff come back, staff get trained, staff get their stuff. Then we have students in a virtual model for a month or a quarter, and then we look at segueing into a hybrid. So I think that we can't be dismissive of what families want and what staff wants. So I just wanted to make sure that there was some rationale for the decision to support a hybrid.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to do that as we go in the chart. Again, my doing kind of like the check-in at the beginning is to see where everyone's mindset is. We haven't made a decision or a recommendation on anything, but it's good for us to know as a group where we're all kind of, what lane we're sitting in and what are the considerations, so that we can be truthful and be really transparent as we record down this information on our chart.
And so for me, the concern is because I was in a conversation with some operational people, they were talking about buildings and hand sanitizer and whether there's enough, et cetera. And I just begin to think about staffing. So if we say, well, we're going to open in a hybrid model, but a staff member who may have an illness or members of their family who struggle with illness, and they say, well, I don't feel safe, I'm not coming. The policies around sick leave, FMLA, right. Those are major topics, I think, for the hybrid discussion.
Agreed.
I just wanted to say too that this kind of, I said this in the in my breakout room, is the survey asked, it was kind of like a survey for families. I said this yesterday. So the question was, how likely are you to return to work? I put I'm somewhat likely to return to work because I know that I'm not going to quit my job and I'm not going to take unpaid FMLA. But that doesn't mean that I feel comfortable or want to. And so I think we have to keep that in mind when looking at the results of the staffing results. Because that's
Thank
basically
you, Allison, for saying
what,
that, because
totally
I
agree.
read the same
Like
thing as I read the
40%?
question.
like 35 or something aren't going to return, and that would imply, well, I don't know how they understood it, but that might imply that they quit or retire earlier. That's a big percentage.
Exactly. Good. Thank you for pointing that out. So Alexander, are you on, have you found the location where we are located? So we can
I
start
am. I didn't know if you wanted me to document all of our just general feelings.
No, I think right now we're just going to document, we're going to read the question. And the first question is, and then, so the first question really is kind of just a general kind of dump in some ways. And then after we do that, we can decide which of the 3 to 5 really resonate for us as a team. But I don't want to block people's flow.
Am I right in that the first question is, how do we effectively and safely train staff prior to the return to school? Am I in the right place?
No, the first question is, what can, for us, it's going to be what can staff expect from ACPS regardless of the model? So it's at that very first header right above there where it says core area summary. You see it? I see you. I see you're there.
Am I here now? I'm sorry, everybody.
I saw you have the cursor right on top of it.
Okay.
So it says core area summary. What can staff, it also says students and families, but we're focused on staff, expect from ACPS regardless of model. And we're going to formulate 3 to 5 sentences that summarize what we believe is true across all models. So for example, what we would propose plans that protect health, physical, emotional, mental health of those returning back to in-person or virtual work. So that would be an example. What other statements do we feel are important to summarize here that would be true whether we do hybrid or virtual? And then what can we expect? What can staff expect regardless of the model? What should we make this is our truth, ACPS is dedicated to, or ACPS will do this for staff?
And I think we need to address, like, with the training. I think that is paramount.
Yes.
If we don't have, no matter if we do virtual or hybrid, what professional development, what resource, what technological, what support are we going to provide? Whichever avenue we decide to follow, that has got to be there. Teachers have to know that we will be behind them and we will give them the trainings and the provisions and the resources for them to do their job appropriately.
I think the other thing that we could consider is that we need to have a comprehensive checklist or plan that requires ACPS to ensure safety. So there has to be, well articulated and transparent plans for the cleanliness of buildings, the monitoring of health. It can't just be that we're doing it. We have to be able to show, to build that. It goes back to that trust discussion we have. Find communicative ways to ensure that there is trust.
And Sandra, I was going to say also, this centers around communication, frequent and reliable communication to staff, because I feel like sometimes if people don't know, they kind of, they can come up with their own ideas of what, what they think it is. But I think clear, consistent, frequent communication with staff.
That should be an expectation, absolutely. We have 3 bullet points and we can do up to 5. So if there's anything else that we have not captured that are overarching both the hybrid and the virtual model, is there anybody else?
I guess this isn't really like the virtual model, but just knowing we've kind of already said it, I don't know how to put it all, but knowing what's going to happen if a student is sick, if a teacher is sick, are you going to be asked to substitute for other classes? What's just knowing, having a plan for what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, and preparing for this meeting, I went and looked through the workbook for some of the other teams, and that was a big topic that came up about if someone, encounters COVID, do we have a space in the building if we're in a hybrid model where that person can be quarantined until their parent can pick them up, where only the parent can access the child, not someone in the staff. I just thought that was very interesting. I don't know, let me document
So
that.
some of those assurances, then how would we articulate that? And I think it goes back into having a plan in place. I mean, I think you captured it pretty well, Alexander. What you wrote is a comprehensive checklist or plan that requires ACPS to ensure safety for staff, i.e. cleanings of building, monitoring of health, access to PPE. Is that good, Allison? Does that capture?
Well, and I guess also the staffing, or like because, I'm an EL teacher and my school's been doing well trying not to use EL teachers as substitutes like last year, but anytime there's not a teacher, you bring in the other non-classroom teachers to substitute. And
so maybe the statement is, for the fourth statement, it's that we can expect that ACPS will have a staffing formula.
But we also discussed repurposing staff, and that might be a site-based decision depending upon which staff have opted for virtual versus the hybrid, that it may be something just.
So maybe we have a staffing formula that's consistent with whichever framework is selected, because then I mean, all this is contingent. Again, we keep going back to, it's contingent on which form. Either way, we're going to have plans in place for how we're going to staff.
Yes, and the staffing formula, I don't know. Maybe I don't understand the context of it. I just want to make sure that we understand that there'll be staff, but the staff may be repurposed within the building to be able to support it. That's if we have the hybrid, or even if we have the virtual, because we discussed repurposing paraprofessionals and people that are other support people to be able to support the virtual learning premise by maybe being in breakout rooms and doing intervention groups.
So maybe, Alexander, instead of having the word formula there, just say a staffing plan.
Well, and I would say, because I know my previous principal, we would have something called a guest staff shortage plan. And basically, if we didn't have enough substitutes to cover classrooms, there was a predetermined plan. This person would cover, like our paraprofessionals would cover in the classroom in the AM versus a different paraprofessional will cover in the classes in the PM. So, but we called it like a staffing shortage plan, or a guest, something like that, to know that, people wouldn't be surprised. If our Encore teachers were incorporated, they would know on Mondays, these people would cover that particular class. So coming in with some type of plan, so it's no surprises.
So if we put staffing plan there, and then at the IE, Alexander, at the end, maybe put staffing gap, filling staffing gaps, just so that there's like a little bit more explanation. But I think if we keep it broad and just say staffing plan, it leaves it open to multiple variations that we might need to consider. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. And then now we can go down to the model summary, and let's talk about just hybrid first. And here we're going to recommend in 1 or 2 sentences summarizing the core idea and how our team supports the hybrid model. So for example, if we were transportation, we supply protective equipment for all bus drivers. So for hybrid, I think the first thing, it goes back to kind of that bullet point up top, is we would need to, well, not that we're necessarily the ones supplying it, but we would need to have assurances on a training plan that supports the curriculum. I think that's something that this group would be recommending, even if we're not the ones who actually are doing it, but it's something that's needed for support. I think another thing that this group would do or recommend.
Could you say that one more time, Ms. Hardiman? I'm sorry.
So make assurances for training that supports the technology and the curriculum.
Got it.
That's back to your professional development, so.
Yeah.
And I thought that your first one with we're not even gonna get to that training if they don't have the feeling that they're protected physically, emotionally, mentally. So
Right.
if you're providing assurances, which is ASS, not, that's a different.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not
If you're providing assurance, you want to also be able to provide assurances to staff that you're going to.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That you're going to have that at the forefront, because they're not going to want to even be back if they feel that they're not going to be protected.
So the next bullet could be then provide EAP supported services for emotional, mental health, well-being. So we might have to do something different than what we normally do, which is just send people through EAP. It might be something that we have to look at in terms of more comprehensive, whether it's through like a Zoom, through a, an additional kind of, I don't want to say hotline, but some other resourcing within the division. I don't know what that would look like, but that's I think the broad thought about it.
Andrew, I have a quick question. I've never used EAP before, but I don't know, is that like a vendor type thing?
Yes.
I mean, is that person or is that vendor equipped to deal with what's happening
Yes.
now with the COVID? Like, do they
Yeah,
have
well, I don't know. I don't know they're equipped to deal with the COVID because nobody's equipped to deal with
I meant
but from a
to deal
technical
with employees.
perspective, yes.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
can call in a confidential manner. So no, we don't get any data or information about why people call. We get usage. We know whether the benefit's being used or not, but that's about it. They can be referred to a mental health practitioner in their area. It could be a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. It could be other resources because they have like financial resources as well that they can refer people to. It's a wide range of life resources that they can utilize and get feedback immediately, or sources of information to help them, or to do long-term counseling. And years ago when they changed like the Mental Health Parity Act, a lot of those, not a lot of them, those benefits now roll into your health benefits as well. So a lot of times you can keep the same treatment provider if you coordinate the benefits right, so you can see someone long-term. So that part is nice, but the first couple of sessions are free. They don't charge like people to do those.
EAP program for us, Don, is through ComPsych. Okay, and the information is online. And that program is for staff as well as family members. And you can get up to 5 sessions free. And then we also, like Sandra said, is mental health parity. So, the healthcare, Kaiser, they all can also provide support as well. And all of the providers these days have COVID-19 information on their website. They, EAP, ComPsych, Healthcare, Kaiser, they're doing a lot of it. So, but I think that's like on an individual basis. When you think about our school, now, in terms of leadership, how do you check in with your employee? That kind of support that may be coming from the school division or each school location, that's a little different than the individual reaching out to the medical provider or EAP. And I think that we need to think about both.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think like that's nice to have, but I think in this situation, the way that I would feel supported is I don't know, no, feeling like you have my back. Like, I don't know if I'm being unreasonable, but I've already gotten extremely nervous thinking that I'm going to have to go in and substitute, you know, I'm going to be used as a substitute in classes that have COVID-19 like symptoms or breakouts. Like, that's already like maybe I should accept that that's what I'm being asked to do, but it's scary. Like,
what I would like to do is to put the statement in that we have a clear, concise framework for expectations for employees so that they understand what their roles will be, so that you're not frightened that one day, Allison, you walk in and say, guess what, you're teaching PE. That should never be the case. And whatever we have these things in place. But I think we need to be very careful how we articulate what the expectations will be so that staff feels comfortable in however this rolls out. So I just wanted to make sure that we had that. And then I don't want to, I'll let Alexander do this, but instead of where you're saying also for just EAP supportive services, but I would say provide broad-based supportive services. That way you can have, i.e. EAP, district level supports and so on, so that people, you know, you have something that is a little more open. So it's not just like you have to call EAP, but maybe your building principal can help you. Maybe there's counseling services from Daryl Sampson's office. I mean, there may be other avenues that we can go down.
It could be a combination.
Yeah, it could be a combination. Okay, so it looks like we have 3 bullets here, and it said add 1 to 2 for hybrid. So let's move to virtual because I want to make sure we cover everything that we need to for today. And so we're doing the same thing. Now we're going in the virtual mindset, and we're putting, again, an example of what it is that we would support with the hybrid, with the virtual model, or what we think we need to support if we were in a virtual model. I think for the virtual model, one of the things that we definitely need to communicate and support is what are the priorities of the work in the virtual environment, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a support staff, what are the priorities of work? I don't think that it is realistic, that's my opinion. I don't feel that it's realistic for us to think that the job descriptions we have in our hand today are totally applicable in a virtual environment. So I think there needs to be some prioritization of work and expectations.
I guess I'm not clear on that. I mean, how would your job be if you're a teacher? How would your job be any different in a hybrid versus the virtual? I mean, your goal is to, go ahead.
Okay, so I think, and again, I'm not an instructional expert, so I'll let Pat and Alex and Allison kind of speak to this, but there are some things, depending on what type of teacher you are, that you can do in a classroom that you cannot demonstrate or do virtually. Like one of my kids is taking biology right now, and they're not doing labs, they're not doing, and when an administrator goes into assess performance, I don't think that they can necessarily assess on the same criteria of manipulatives, of recognizing every child in the Zoom. It just looks different. And so I just think that employees need to know what are the priorities, what are the things that are most important that we need to see or do in the virtual environment, and not think that the work is going to look the same as when you're doing something in person. Even for us in HR, the way that you used to do orientation, for example, is significantly different than what you do now for benefits for employees. It has to be clear to the employee what is the priority and what is the outcome of the work that's being assigned. Look at the outcome first, and then back up and say, what are the steps or what do we need to see to make sure that it's done properly?
I think what I'm hearing from you, Sandra, is how do we help the employees modify how they do things to achieve the goals that they have, which is teaching the students. So the way you used to teach when you were standing in front of the classroom is not going to be the same. those work groups that you maybe put students in before might not work quite the same way. There will be technological issues. You can't just have them all sit together anymore and talk to each other. They have to build in more time maybe to accommodate computer.
You just have to you have to restructure whatever you're doing. We're going to have to do power
Right.
standards. We're going to have to chunk the day. Nobody can sit
Yes.
for 6 hours because I'm telling you, when we sit for 2, we're like, we're done. So we have to decide what are the core subjects, what have to be taught, how are we then going to teach it? Are we going to do the flipped classroom model, you know, where they're going to have the either the uploaded virtual training and then you're actually going to do your breakout. So we have to rethink how we are actually teaching. So that's not in our group,
I
but
think we need to provide our employees training towards that to help
well,
them.
that's the
figure
training. That's the
out
part
how
we went back for.
Yeah.
That's under hybrid. I think that one needs to go over. We need that hybrid or virtual. We really need to make sure that we have the training in the technology and in the curriculum, that the expectations for the staff. I really think that it needs to be there. And I really believe we also have to have the clear, concise framework of expectations for the staff, whether they're in hybrid or in virtual. I think those are both categories. I really think that they're in both categories. In fact, all three of these could be in both categories.
And I'm not sure if this is our focus, but like making it clear, also managing parent expectations, because I think, you know, there's a whole group of parents that want the kids to be, you know, busy with the teacher for 6 hours. And we just know that like that would be really nice, but that's not going to work. And that's also causes there's another group of parents that are like, can't even do this. Like they don't pay attention. So I don't know, like finding something that, I guess you can't make everybody happy, but making it clear, I guess, for families and teachers what is expected.
Communication. And if we have there's some districts that have already created videos and handbooks that have it out there. And I know our district is quite confident. So once we decide that we have it, we put it out in multiple media so that they have it, what you're going to get, whatever the school is going to look like.
And I was going to say, there needs to be training around also the different specialists, because what I do as a special education teacher will look
Right.
different as what Allison does as an EL teacher versus what someone else does as a general education teacher. So the training really needs to be specialized to that particular employee so that they're able to demonstrate that they are able to meet whatever expectations for curriculum, et cetera, that ACPS is expecting.
Perfect. We're doing actually okay on time. The next section, if we can move to that, I think this is an important area, and it'll probably take up the remainder of our time going through of our decision-making questions. So the idea here is, I'll read what the decision is. This is something that we have identified that needs to happen in order to support staff moving into either environment. And we need to determine whether or not there are interdependencies on this. So will this decision impact scheduling, or will scheduling impact the decision? That's interdependent. Not interdependent, we can make a decision without knowing the specifics of a schedule. Or not applicable, the decision doesn't apply to the model. And then we need to identify who owns the decision, and any information that would be needed in order to formulate a decision or a recommendation. So it's pretty hefty. We might not make it through all of them because our list is a little long, but at least we can get a good start. So the first decision is, how do we effectively and safely train staff prior to the return of school? So we need to think about, how would training take place? And I think that we need to look at in the hybrid and then look at in the virtual. And I think one of the first things that we probably need to decide is that, can we make this decision without knowing what the schedule is going to be? And we can make a prediction, under hybrid or virtual, but we can't make the decision without knowing what route the division is taking. Like we can't formulate a plan to do it without knowing which one we're doing. So under the hybrid, go
I
ahead.
think that, I was just gonna say, it would be interdependent because you can't, we
Yes.
need to know the schedule. So I, rather than just belabor it.
Yep. So put
Yeah,
in, so in the first block, Alexandra, we can say that it's interdependent.
Under both.
mhm.
Uh-huh. And I think that there are several people who own this decision. So it's well, I guess is we owns the decision on how it's facilities in general, the large group of facilities. I think it's also principals because how we deliver the training, and maybe even, and well, not maybe, CNI, and
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
particularly, what do we call professional development now? Did they change the name of that one too? I'm not.
Well, it was talent development.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
What
still
is it now?
talent
I
development.
think we don't have that name anymore, but
Just with professional development.
yeah,
Talent
so
development.
I
Yeah,
think they would
whatever.
have a say in that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
Just any information needed.
Okay. Sorry, my husband's coming in for a second. He didn't want to be on camera. Need my water. Thanks. Yeah, he's taking good care of me. He's like, turn the camera off. I don't want to be on the camera. Okay, so we have the owners for that area. And then the next column is list the information needed to make a decision or recommendation. And they give some examples like the number of staff returning, list of students attending each day. So specifically for training, I think we have to, I don't know that we do it, but I think there needs to be a needs assessment of what training is needed and desired. So because there's two pools. There are some things that have to do with safety that's specific to like a general ed classroom, but it might look a lot different for an autism classroom, a special education, another special education teaching on like the safety use of masks and all those things. So I think we need to have a needs assessment that's going to really identify what types of training are required. So I think that's important. And then is there anything else that we would need to be able to make a recommendation about the training? Just like who would be doing the training? Who would be the, is there a train the trainer format where we have, I don't know, the health department come in and talk about how to use masks and gloves and all those kinds of things, and then principals are required to train out? Or is that, we need to know who are going to be the identified trainers.
And I don't interpret this to say to effectively and safely train staff only from the perspective of being your safety. I also look at it for training, just for training or curriculum and as far
was
as
thinking about that.
technology.
Yeah.
So, okay.
You're bringing up that is a good point.
Do we need to think about time? Does timing have anything to do with us?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know Arlington is pushing back
Good
their start date.
point.
like
So
2 weeks.
the information, okay, when will school start?
Yeah.
And what days would be dedicated to professional development? And if we had to add additional days, would people get paid for those? So I think that's probably a question that we'd have to ask as well. Thank you, Allison. That was a good brain trigger. Anything else in this category before we go to the next question? Ooh. Sorry, I'm going down. Okay. Oh, I hate this question because it's a hard one. So the next question is, how will social distancing guidelines be communicated and enforced? I think that, again, these are interdependent, because we don't know until we know like the facility guidelines on how classes will be situated. Are they putting people in large spaces? We don't have those answers yet. So I think we're way on that.
I think under virtual, we would put NA though, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and some, yeah, it could be.
I was surprised on the survey that I think it was like 86% of teachers were, well, I guess it wasn't teachers per se, I don't know. I felt kind of uncomfortable having to enforce all of that stuff. So I put, but it seemed like on the survey, teachers, or I don't know exactly who answered it first, if it was just teachers that answered.
I think parents answered, and they have an expectation that you all are going to be doing the enforcement. Is how I read it, but I could be, wrong. But that's how I interpreted the question, is that they asked the parents, and the parents believe that you all will be somehow responsible for.
So we'll just add that to the principal job description. So I'll walk around with my thermometer, my mask, and I don't know, a hand sanitizer.
Yeah, exactly. Like they do on the cruise ships in the hallway as kids are going by, you're doing the hand sanitizer, spraying their hands.
Can I just put something out there that's not totally related, but Sandra, you did make me think of it, which is hand sanitizers. First of all, there's all the ones that are being
recalled.
We're being told by CDC that we should not use, but also there is the possibility that staff and or students may have or develop allergies to PPE equipment, including hand sanitizer or gloves,
the
things
latex.
like that.
Yep.
What will we do in that case? How do we accommodate that?
That's a good question. So I think that's a good question to put under information needed. How will we assess any adverse impacts related to PPE? Because it's going to add a whole new dimension for, there's lots of people who have latex allergies, the alcohol, the fragrance, there's these hand sanitizers that are fragranced. It's a good point. So I think that's an important thing to say.
And then also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like staff or students that will refuse, I'm not wearing it. I don't want to.
Right.
I'm just not doing it.
Or have health conditions that make it difficult to wear. If you have asthma, wearing a mask can be challenging. Or students who have special needs who maybe will not be able to understand and take their PPE off repeatedly.
Yep.
So maybe after that question,
I think that's where.
Can you put allergies, Alexander?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
So on that first statement, to kind of build off of what Debbie said, can we put IE and then put like sensitivity or allergies or allergens?
Or irritations. Could we put irritations also, because mass rash is a new thing that's
good.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yep.
Yeah. But I think this is where if it's hybrid and there are certain groups that cannot be, let's say we have expectation, if you're gonna come back to school, you need to follow these safety, okay? And for some reason, the students or staff could not comply by those standards, then maybe the virtual is what they should be. This is why we have hybrid. So those people may not, shouldn't be back in school, but maybe or should be on a virtual.
But you're making the assumption that hybrid means that people are going to have a choice. Hybrid could also mean that we just make an overarching statement that kids will come to school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Mondays and Wednesdays, they're virtual. There may not be, we don't know. The decision has not been.
But that should be a questions, or I don't think that we could make that statement. Maybe that's something that we need to put in to consider whether or not there's that flexibility.
What do we mean by hybrid, really?
Yeah.
Right. Do the staff or students have the option to go virtual based on certain conditions? Because if you come back, you have to follow. I mean, in order for all of the staff or student or the parents to feel safe, everybody needs to follow certain procedures.
So back to the question then, I think that, so how will distance and guidelines be communicated and enforced? I think we need to bring out 2 points. One, will there be adaptations to policy or employee handbook? And will the student code of conduct and handbook be modified or, you know, whatever? So I think that that's like, yeah.
Yeah, to comply with safety,
Right.
health and safety.
Well, would we need to have like legal counsel to kind of review that, you know, because I don't know
Absolutely.
how enforceable certain things are, you know, what we can say is enforceable versus what is not enforceable. So we definitely would need legal to review everything to make sure, you know.
You seem to have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
There's
And
more
what-
questions than there are answers, that's for sure.
Yes.
And then what are the consequences if you do not comply? I mean, it's like,
Right.
okay, so I find this, do I like say, oh, call security, you're out of the building? I mean, do I write you up? Do I just walk away? I mean, so what are the consequences? What are going to be enforceable?
So
what
maybe
aren't?
the statement we want to put there is, who will determine
Right,
what are the consequences?
for non-compliance.
Yeah,
Because our poor SROs be putting people out the building every 5 minutes.
and you know, there's a movement to get rid of SROs, not
Oh,
just, I mean,
God, please.
everywhere, not just, I'm not saying ACPS has made
No, I
some
know.
statement about it, but there are movements to remove SROs all over Virginia. So, stay tuned
Well,
We
for
have
that.
one of the best ones ever. Well, GW, now I guess I gotta stop saying we, like I'm not GW. GW has one of the best SROs ever.
Okay, so I think we have enough bullet points on that question. We could probably get one more in, and I think we'll be in a good place. How would we communicate repurposing of teachers who will not return? And is that question, no, I think we can make, I think this group can make a recommendation or decision without input from others on this part. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
we
enough-
make a recommendation and then the people
Yeah.
that can make the
yeah,
decisions
so
will.
it's not dependent on the scheduling.
Mm-mm.
Perfect.
Right,
And I think the owner of it really is principals, human resources, and the chief of CNI.
chief of staff with.
No,
with
what is
no.
her title? What is Dr. Mazingo's title now? Chief Academic
Oh,
Officer,
Gosh,
Chief Academic
no.
Officer? No, it's Chief,
just put Dr. Mozingo. I mean, until you can look up her title. I mean, I don't know. All these titles have
but let's
changed.
put
We have all
Dr.
these new
Mazingo, because she's
directors.
the one who ultimately I think we would be relying upon.
Right, but I don't know. It's not, it's got a long title now.
Yeah, I think it's HR, Dr. Mazingo, and principals
Okay,
that would work together to formulate how repurposing would look. And then how would we communicate? I think we would communicate through the principal. And I think that what we would probably do is have what I envision. I don't know how it would work or not work, but I think each principal would have to come up with, like Don was talking about, their school staffing plan.
right,
And that there would be some, you know, again, process to how people would be reassigned so that people know up front what the expectation is.
right.
So we would communicate through the building principals. And I think HR, our part would be communicating anything that would impact leave usage aligned with our COVID plans. So
And I think you also need to look at the job descriptions because that's in HR. So if we are going to have to repurpose staff to fill grade vacancies, and I'm talking about grade level vacancies, then how that can be done so that the framework and the language, and that's the legalese where you look at our school district attorney to make sure that we are able to do that based on the contracts.
yeah, it could be also whether or not we, and I know Tuhon, cover your ears because I'm going to say a word you don't like. Stipends.
You know, I think that considering that we have such tight budget, you know,
Yeah.
when we talk about more money, I don't think that's going to be that. I think that's a little bit unlikely.
And I don't see
But
what
I might be wrong.
Unlikely, but we should put it out there because that might help decision makers really evaluate programmatically what is the best thing to do and where there could be repercussions depending on what they pick.
But you know,
So,
a lot of our job description, there's a line where it say
other duties as assigned.
as assigned. And I think that's something to think about. But when we repurpose a job, I mean,
Yeah, right. If you have a
And this
math
is-
coach, so if you have a math coach and that math coach is not going to be able to actually do math coaching, that person's still a licensed professional. And depending what their license says,
Be a
they can
teacher.
They can be a
Yeah.
teacher. Hey, I need you 3rd grade. You're going to be a 3rd grade teacher. I mean, just as long as it's clear communication along this framework and it's early enough that people can then decide whether or not that's something that they would be able to fulfill. And then,
Right. And it has to do with job classes, obviously, too,
Right.
because it's like what you just gave is an excellent example of a staffing plan that could work for, and I know Allison's cringing right now because she brought it up with EL, of utilizing licensed teachers who are certified in multiple areas
right,
to backfill some of those. That necessarily is not going to work for us taking the cafeteria hostess and
No.
putting them in the classroom. So it's within, you know, it's within job classes, which I think that's why the comment that we made in the information makes sense. We would be relying upon each principal to look at their school and their existing staff and
Right.
identifying who could potentially do what.
right. And the thing where you said the stipend, we can have instructional assistants with college degrees that could be moved into a classroom and receive a stipend
Yeah.
to fulfill those responsibilities. And so that's where I can see where you're saying the word that Juan doesn't want to agree to, but in some cases it may become a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think this should be all at a full level, or if we are going to say like use EL teachers as classroom teachers, then we need to think about if
Whether it
that's
be
in a
across
way that
schools.
should be like a district thing, and we need to think about how are we still, you know, complying with the law, which I think is a little bit more broad than say like you can't really do that with special education teachers, but maybe there's more flexibility with EL teachers, but it still needs to be, I don't know if the state is going to relax all those laws but
Right.
we have to think about like students receiving their service hours and that type of thing. And I feel like, I'm not sure, I can see both ways, but if that's going to be done, maybe that should be done for everybody. I don't know.
And
Across
I think that's why Dr. Mazingo is kind of like key to that, because we can put out those kind of thoughts. But I think that I think teachers are protective of their turf and where they are and what school they're in. And I think principals are too. You know, Dr. Zisius probably doesn't want to give up all her star players to go and help out at such as, I mean, we all have to do
Oh
things
no,
like
I
that at
don't
times.
mean like going to different schools, but it's like, oh, the EL teachers at John Adams are going to be classroom teachers, but oh, the EL teachers at Tucker are not going to
Okay.
do that.
Okay,
That's
I
kind
get
of
what you're saying.
Like, not, oh, I hope we don't have to go to other schools. Well, I guess it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, so well, that's good. I'm glad you gave that clarifying point. Okay, any other comments in that section that we're in now, talking about
No.
them being repurposed, about teacher repurposing?
And I think
Yeah.
the one under fulfilling staff shortages, I do think that a lot of what we just said and repurposing would also cover a lot of
Yeah.
the staff shortages. The only addition would be, and that's with Deborah, how we come up with a pool of substitutes. And I don't know how you would even have substitutes, or if you just have it today, rather than be a hybrid class, since your teacher won't be back, everything will be virtual and then how that would be presented. But I do think a lot of it will.
And well, and you brought up about substitutes. So one of the things about repurposing, maybe it's also that we, and this is something that I guess HR would have to do as well, but or figure out how to do, we maybe need to look at everyone who's in our substitute like database at this point and send out survey, they don't have ACPS email addresses. So we probably need to find a way to survey those folks as well to see if they intend to be available to sub this year. And if so, restate their preferences so that we can have the pool look a little bit different. So that's something we might need to consider. So Alexandra, that might be something we can put under the repurposing, and that is surveying our existing substitute pool and see what their intent is in working for us. And then quite honestly, some of these people are not going to be that motivated to sub because guess what? They're getting unemployment right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's running through 26 weeks, that's going into this next school year. If there's a recertification of that, incentive, then we're dead in water in some ways because they could potentially be making more drawing that than they are coming back in what they must.
Using substitutes brings up the concerns that we had with training staff. How are we going to train the substitute?
Yeah.
They're harder to corral, perhaps is the way to put it. Harder to maintain consistent training for them. How would we do it? How would we ensure that this substitute who's coming into your school today has had the training?
Yeah.
Have we, when we're talking about repurposing, is there, have we talked about, teachers that are above a certain age or teachers that have the, certain health conditions? Are they going to have options to be like first pick for virtual, or are they just going to have to take this whatever type of leave is available?
And I think that we're not able to, I think we can answer that question, but we're unable to answer it until we know for sure what a hybrid looks like versus the only, we don't have to answer that question for virtual, but any other option, in person or hybrid, we have to answer that question once we know that's where they're going. So that's come up before in one of our earlier sessions, and it's kind of on our holding questions we need answered, but it's hard to answer right now. Okay, so we're at 11:06, so they were 7 minutes late, we're 6 minutes late, so it kind of evened out. Are there any closing remarks or thoughts that we need to address before we close out for this session, and then we resume on, it looks like Monday?
So we'll do this on Monday. We'll just continue on this chart. Is that what the plan is on?
Yes, that's what it sounds like we're doing.
Okay. And feel free, if you think there's things that you could just go ahead and populate.
And if there are things that come to your mind as you look at this, what you could do is you could type them in and highlight it. So we know that these are items that we need to go back and discuss as a group and have some consensus on. But if it's easier for you to, and you have the time to go and look through it and do that, feel free. But don't feel compelled that you have to. Any other questions, suggestions?
Do we go back or are we done?
No, we're done.
I don't think
we go back. Yeah, I think this is it. I'm surprised. I was expecting Sima or someone else to come in today, but nobody else popped in.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that concludes our session today. Again, thanks for your participation. You guys, it's definitely getting more lively.
Yeah, thanks to
We're all getting more vocal as we grow and expand. So that's a good thing.
And I do appreciate, Alexandra, you taking on this role. It makes it so much easier for the rest of us.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. It helps me stay focused.
Well, have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks so much.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.